Hello, welcome to Paleo Greenbird. I'm Greenbird, and today's video is going to be another flint knapping video. Today I thought we'd go over some slab knapping. This is a obsidian triangle. I'm pretty sure this is rainbow obsidian. We'll know once we get into it a little bit, but there's a few advantages of knapping slabs or triangles in this case. It's nice, quick, easy gratification. You know, some might argue that it doesn't require the same skill set as going through the process of making a biface through percussion and then pressure flaking from there on. And I guess there's some truth to that, but this is a great way to get started. If you've never flint knapped and you want to try it, all it requires is a hand pad and a pressure flaker. You could probably, I don't know how much, I don't buy any of this stuff anymore, but you could probably get a hand pad and a pressure flaker, I'm guessing, for 20 or 30 bucks at the very most. These obsidian triangles are very cheap as well. You can usually get a dozen of them for 20 bucks, 30 bucks, depending upon where you buy them. So it's a great way to get into the hobby and learn a little bit, and it's a good way to practice your pressure flaking too. So there are folks out there that do nothing but knap slabs. So if you're new to it and you're looking into it and you see some of the back and forth controversy online, just don't buy into it. Oh, there is one more thing you'll need. I'm sorry. You're going to need a grinding stone of some sort. One of the benefits of slab knapping too is generally your edges come pre-ground to some extent because of the saw that's used to cut them. But you'll still want a grinding stone. If you don't have a grinder stone, if all you have is a pressure flaker and a hand pad, and you can make all this stuff, you can find a stone. I've been out in the woods before and I haven't had my grinding stone. I just find the roughest stone I can find and I use it. It still works. Different stones work better, but you can get by with whatever you have. So without further ado, let's get to it. Even though this is ground, excuse me, I'm still going to grind it a little bit more. And we're working with obsidian today, and it's pretty windy here. Well, it's not extremely windy, but it's windier than it's not still and calm. And I always prefer to have a little bit of wind when I'm working obsidian because it's just such a fine dust. You never want to work it indoors. I mean, you never want to work any stone indoors, but especially obsidian. When working with obsidian, another thing to consider is your posture too. It's always great. Make sure your face isn't too close to it. It's sort of, at least for me, natural reaction. You can kind of find yourself, your head getting closer and closer and closer. Probably because I don't have the best vision, but anyway, so here we go. So I found it through the help of others and through trial and error that it's best to start at the point, at the tip of it, and then work your way back. So what you're doing on your initial pass is you're basically doing what's called skinning it. So you're taking off the saw mark, that roughness, to get down to the the beautiful, colorful stone. So you don't want to dig in too deep because you will make some more passes, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And what you want to do when you're pressure flaking, if you've never done it, is just like percussion. You're creating that pressure that goes in and then pulls the flake off. Same thing with pressure flaking, only instead of using a forward movement, you're pushing to create that pressure. So another thing you want to do, keep this hand against your leg, and I still have a tendency to kind of be all over the place, but for the best practice you want to definitely keep your hand close to it, because what that'll allow you to do is use your legs to squeeze. So instead of pushing on it and using your wrists and your elbows, which will make you sore and that will cause problems, just so you know, you can use your legs to squeeze. Try and minimize that. Generally I don't keep my thumb on my pressure flaker. I try to lock it in because I get a better flake, but sometimes when I'm working slabs I will put my thumb up. So do whatever's comfortable to you. There's a million ways to do this. You'll see people say, oh, you got to keep your wrist straight, oh, you got to not keep your wrist straight. Just do what's comfortable for you, knowing the physics and the the geometry behind what you're trying to do. You're trying to create enough pressure downward and inward to pluck a flake off. So that's really all you're doing. So we're going to start at the tip, I'm pushing down and in, sort of like scooping ice cream. And I got a nice little flake, so you can see. Hopefully you can. There's a lot of glare, so I can't tell what the camera's picking up. Now, as you can see, you've sort of, I don't know if you can see it clearly or not, but you've sort of created your next platform. But what you want to do is you want to give yourself a little bit of space. You don't. I wouldn't suggest going right on that, right on that platform. I give it a little bit of space. Maybe, I don't know. What I do is I line up that platform to where my notch is in my pad, and I'll tell you why in a second. Okay, so I'm getting nice clean flakes, but in the event that I don't, and the flake doesn't travel all the way across, by giving myself that space, I have a place to sort of back up to and clean that up. And as we get further down, it'll make a little bit more sense. You can kind of see the platform a little bit better on this one. It's the low point. It's the smile. Just like anything else, you work the smiles. Support is really important on this too, I should mention. You want to support both ends, but not in the middle, because what you'll do is, it's common sense, you'll snap it. It puts more pressure on the inside and where that notch is, and you'll snap it. So if you play guitar, it's sort of like a bar chord. Sorry if I'm giving you the finger here. That's the sort of support that you want. You can still rest your finger on there. Don't be afraid. Don't feel like you have to remove that. Just don't put pressure on it. Don't press it. So again, I'm going to move that platform all the way up to the edge of my notch. So it feels like you're maybe working further down than you should, but just trust me in that it will work. There you go. Now as we get further on, you can sort of see how the flake doesn't travel entirely across. That's alright, you get it from the other side, but you need to go at least more than halfway. And it's easy on the tip, but once you get down to where the triangle part is, the larger part of the base, the wider part, got to make sure that those flakes travel. And you can sort of actually see where I left that space. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up or not, but you can see where there's still a little bit of the saw marks. For one thing, that's fine because I can clean it up with that platform that I left myself. But two, I'm going to be doing a lot more passes, so I'm not trying to turn this into a point right away. Now I'm just starting to create my flake pattern and remove those saw marks. In fact, some of those that I took were a little bit aggressive. I probably didn't need to go that deep. Support. See how I have my pinky under the tip there? That's supporting that tip so it doesn't get shock. End shock. If you don't know what end shock is, look it up. End shock is just basically when there's enough shock on the piece that it'll make the thinner parts on the tip break off. Okay, so you can see there, I didn't really go fully across, that's alright. Get it from the other side. And another good thing too is when you're supporting it, you can always support underneath. That gives you a nice way of supporting it without putting too much pressure on it, squeezing it. Just be careful because I have driven flakes directly. If you get an overshot, you could drive a flake right into your finger. So just be aware of that. Not to be scared of, but just be aware of it. Alright, so that's a short flake there. I'm going to have to clean that up. I'll show that to you. That's alright. Sometimes you can also adjust the angle. If you need to, like right here, I know I need to drive a flake. I mean, I can clean that up from the other side, so I'm not super worried about it, but if it was a wider piece like a knife or something like that, I might need to adjust my angle so that instead of going straight down, I go in at an angle, flake that off. I mean, just keep in mind it'll affect your flake pattern. I'm not worried about it though. And there we go, we cleaned it up. See that? So really fun stuff. Instant gratification. That's another good thing about slabs is that you can sit down and in 20 minutes have yourself a real nice piece. I'm going to speed this up a little bit just for the sake of time. It's one of those things where once you start to get into a rhythm, it's like anything else. Once you get into a rhythm, you'll just start, you know, going and going and going, and the next thing you know, you got a piece. Want a nice sharp pressure flaker for this, at least to start with. Kind of went off of my pad there for a second. Got myself a little hinge. That's all right though. Got plenty of time to work it out. So you can see what the first pass looks like, I hope. Between my safety glasses and the sun, I can't really see much. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the other side now. I'm going to go on this side here, take this pass. Sometimes you get a chip that gets stuck in your hand pad. It's alright. Just get rid of it. So if you're spacing your flakes out, you know, like I said, you don't want to take a flake right next to the next flake. If you're spacing them out, you'll start to see you get that zigzag pattern form. Yeah, you can see that. If you don't get that zigzag pattern form, you're taking your flakes too close to each other, and there's a couple problems with that. One is you're not going to really have a great flake pattern, and two, if for some reason one of your flakes terminates short, you have no way of cleaning that up other than coming back from the other side, hoping that your slab is still thick enough to clean that up. If you leave those platforms and those deltas, then at least if you do have an island, you can come in on that platform and pick it off. If I get an island, I'll show you. I hope I don't get an island, but I might. You never know. I haven't done this in a while. So again, just like scooping ice cream, going down and in. Down and in. And I'm just going right on. I'm maybe going in. Geez, I don't know. I'm not good with measurements, but maybe, you know, if you take your pressure flaker and put it down at the very edge of it and then just move it in enough to where it moves, that's probably enough. I would say maybe, you know, the thickness of a pencil lead is probably, but you'll know if your flakes are going too deep, you'll get these giant, you know, instead of getting that nice even convexity, you'll start getting big chunks out of it. That tells you that you're digging in too deep. You're going in too aggressive. Okay, so this I might get myself an island here. Do you see that? See if I can correct that. So there's a couple ways I can correct that. I can just wait and get it on the next pass. I can angle a little bit so that my next flake goes this way to take that off, which I might do. Or I can even come in from the bottom. Let's see. Sorry, give you a better angle. So I can either angle my flake so it goes this way instead of straight across, so I get that little island off, or I can come from the bottom and come up and clean it up that way, which inevitably I'm going to have to do anyway. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going the way I am and clean it up from the bottom, since we're so early in the process. Hopefully I don't regret that. Alright, so this is what I'm left with. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean up the bottom. Same thing, it's a little harder to hold, but it's the same basic process. And when I get to that spot where I didn't quite go all the way across. I'm going to probably push in a little bit harder just to see if I can clean that up. If not, I'm not worried about it. I'll get on the next pass. Yeah, I got it. Yep, it's gone. Oh. Watch out, you don't cut yourself. Oh, that crunching sound is not good. That means you're crushing something. Yeah, and I got a little step out of it. See that? I don't know if you can see that or not. I can't see anything in the camera with the glare, but got myself a little step fracture. But that's all right. I got plenty of time to work that out. All right, and there we go. We got our first pass. Not super pretty, but it's good enough for now. You're just skinning it right now. I mean, I guess I should back that up. You're skinning it, but you're also setting up, you know, your platforms for your next pass. So you want to be careful about it. Just don't get too concerned if you get something that's not, you know, as pretty as you want it. You'll be able to clean it up. So now I'm gonna go on this side, do the same thing. Start with the point. It's actually easier, I think, on this side, for me anyway, because I'm a righty. Nice easy plucks, because we're in the front here. I don't know if you heard that, but that one just skated across. That's no good. That means I either need to grind or I had you know, I positioned myself in the wrong way. I didn't get the right pressure, the downward and inward pressure. Could be either one of those, really. Just kind of got to find that sweet spot. I mean, whether you're up really high on the pad or you're down in the pad, just depends on how you know, what movements you're using to create that. I mean, for me, I like it a little bit higher because then I feel like I can push down and in. Some people will hold it in the middle. Just depends on how you position your body. Everybody will tell you the best way to do it, but really you'll figure it out. So I'm going to grind a little because I'm skating off this a little bit. Another thing to look at too, if you start skating off a lot, is look at your pressure flaker. Maybe you've rounded your edge. Mine's still pretty sharp, but you know, if your edge gets too round, you won't get that. You won't grip in the right spot. There we go. And if you hear kind of like a crushing sound, that's no good either. Alright, so I made a couple of these passes a little close to each other. That's right though. And as you can see, I have a bad habit of getting this hand away from my leg, and that's when you start running into problems. Okay. I've got a couple of, you know, thicker spots where maybe my flaking wasn't that good. It's alright to go back and just touch it up a little bit. You want to try and keep it as even as you can, so if you get some spots that aren't even, you can touch them up. But as you can see, my base is way thinner than the rest of it. That's alright. If there's one spot that's thinner than the rest, it's not a big deal. Just, you know, try and do the best you can. So now I'm going to go back, now I'm going to come to this side, and as you can see, I have a lot of material to take off there. So I'm going to start at the tip like I always do. Better to do that. Don't have to go too aggressive in the beginning, but once you start getting closer to the base, you want to make sure you're taking off good flakes. And I'm going to stop and abrade this. I don't blow the dust off either, I leave it on there. I don't know why, but it just seems to help. Apologize for the noise, there's a lot of trucks going by today. So it's the same basic thing, you know, take a flake off, move it forward so that your platform is actually a little deeper in than you think. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat until you're done. That crushing noise is generally not great. So, got myself a little spot there, if you can see that. And that's a little bit far from the base. I can't take that off from the base, so I'm going to angle my next flake a little bit and hope I can clean that up. If not, it could bring the process to a stop. And I did. Well, sort of. Close enough. See that? At least I got that top part off. These next couple flakes have to be pretty aggressive though. Not aggressive like digging in, but just pushing down and out. I need to make sure these flakes drive really far. Yeah, there we go. See how far that flake drove? Now I'm starting to get to the end, so I'm kind of support on the side. Just as long as you can keep it stable and supported, you should be okay. Otherwise, you could get shock, you could end shock. That'll ruin your day real quick. I don't work with Obsidian a lot, just because I always get cut. But I've got these slabs laying around, and they do make nice, quick, easy points. Figured, what the heck. So if you didn't see, I just flipped that around, even though I've already done that side. It was a little uneven, so I wanted to keep it even. So I'm going to thin that other side out a little bit. Now I'm going to flip it back, work the side that I'm working. And hopefully I can get that little booger out right there. You see that? Did a little bit of damage on that one. Okay. So I busted out and blew out a corner on that. So I was trying to get really aggressive and get that little spot out. I'm not worried about that though, because it's probably right about where I'm going to notch it. So as long as I can keep thinning it, it'll be fine. So again, every time I make a pass, I'm grinding. You can never overgrind. At least not with slabs. I'll grind that spot that blew out too. Just because I'll probably need to work that. And you do the same thing. You just start over again, make another pass. Every time you do it, it gets thinner and thinner. Until eventually you have to zigzag an edge on it. Let's speed up the process a little bit here. I'm moving away from my leg, move back to my leg. That way you're using more of your legs and less of your arms. And back to again. You can probably hear my chickens. Now it's possible as you get thinner you'll bust the tip off, as I just did. I jinxed myself. That's alright, you fix that. I almost always do that. Flipping it over, doing the other side. Actually, I'm going to get that part off first. I always try to hit the lowest spots first, even if I have to skip a little bit, because you'll get low spots that maybe aren't next to each other just because I've given yourself that extra space. That's alright, don't worry about it. This is an art, doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, this particular point is going to probably be far from perfect, but that's alright, I'll still enjoy it. And it'll still serve its purpose. It'll still go to an arrow, it'll take down game, it'll look pretty on a necklace, whatever you want to do with it. So I'm not taking super aggressive flakes. It's better to take multiple passes back and forth than it is to try and get it all done right away. You'll just take too deep of flakes, and the evidence of that is right here, where you can see that giant, it almost looks fluted. That was when I took that big flake, trying to clean up that mess. It's not a perfect example of just why it's better to do it right the first time. If you have to come back and clean it up, there's just more opportunity to do something that will make your point look a little less pretty. But don't get all caught up in having to have this, giant, mammoth, beautiful-looking flake. Our ancestors didn't. If it's sharp, and it'll fly, and it'll kill, you did your job. They'll get better and better as you start to nap, and I'm still relatively new to napping, so I've got some really cool, awesome, beautiful points, and I've got some that are pretty, primitive-looking. All right, as your point starts to thin, you're going to be pressing less down and more out, more plucking, sort of. That's going to help in a number of ways. One, you're not going to break your point, and two, that will help with convexity. I'll give you that convexity that just makes the point really look good. You don't have to have it. I mean, it does strengthen it a little bit if you're putting it on an arrow or something like that. But really, I think it's just for looks. I know this is a long video, so I might edit it a little bit. I don't like to edit my videos, but I don't want to bore you either. So here I'm down to pretty much my last pass. You can see there's still a flat edge on there. I'll probably try one more pass to see if I can thin that out, and then I'll go to the zigzag. And you know what? I think I can pull a zigzag off. It's a little thick. I would probably go one more pass, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to zigzag it. What I'm doing is I'm taking that little edge, that platform. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, right where it stops becoming, where it looks white and ground, right when it gets to the sharper looking point. I'm going to take the low point, always the low point, right? And I'm going to pluck that down just to peel it off. And if I do it right, I should be able to. I should have another one on the other side. Sometimes you don't, and you have to do it again on the same side. That's all right. It's not a big deal. And I'm plucking mostly just to the side. I'm not even really plucking downward that much. Because what I'm trying to do now is I'm just trying to pull off that flat part and give it an edge. I probably should have gone another pass, I guess, but I mean, it's not too late. I still could. So I'm just going to work with what I've got. I'm not worried about it. It's your basic zigzag. If I didn't explain the zigzag right, you can always just look it up, or if I didn't explain it clearly enough for you. But it's just like what it sounds. You're zigging and zagging, and you're always trying to hit the lowest point. So if you don't have a low point, when you flip it over, then don't flip it over. Just keep hitting the low points. Yep. Just keep thinking of hitting the smiles. And for that matter, don't overthink it. Just do it. Typically, this will take place much quicker than the way it is right now. Unfortunately, I'm not experienced enough to be able to talk and move quickly. Just plucking a little off. Don't be afraid to clean it up a little bit. Alright. Let me try and reshape that tip real quick while I'm here. Just a little bit. So it's obviously going to be a fat spot there because the tip broke off. So I'm going to have to be cognizant of that while I'm working it. Try and thin it down a little bit. But you're going to shape your tip anyway. You're going to shape the tip of the point. So don't get too caught up if you break the tip off. And here we go. We've got our one side. One side's done. And you can see there's still a ton of platforms there. So because I'm going to continue to pressure flake that. We've got an edge, but we're not really done. Okay, I hope you can see that. Alright, so now I'm going to do the other side. Same thing. It's a little thick. Might work some spots down before I start to zigzag it. That last edge was a little thick. Alright, that's good. This time I'm going to start from the tip. I don't really have a low spot, so I have to create one. That first chip will create my low spot. Just be really careful with it. Otherwise you'll snap the tip off again. Every time I take that chip, I'm flipping it over. Going to the next low spot. Oh, doing bad form again. So again, I'm not an expert napper. I hope this helps, you know, somebody new out there who's getting into it. Sometimes it's nice to see somebody who's not an expert at something do a demonstration. So, because oftentimes, you know, I may be making the same mistake you're making, or maybe I just recently overcame that hurdle. And it might be something that a more experienced napper might overlook, assuming you know it. Always keep the notch of your pad clean. Not only will it affect the way your flakes travel, but it'll cut you. And with Obsidian, sometimes if I'm napping big pieces of Obsidian, I'll actually wear gloves. I know that there's probably people out there that'll be like, oh, that's not traditional, but I've had some pretty serious cuts from Obsidian. I don't get them really anymore. I think once you start to understand how the flakes travel for each, you know, for particular stones, and you've made those mistakes, you start to realize, you know, typically when you get cut, it's because you did something wrong. Not always, but usually. Just going to make this tip a little more symmetrical. Too much over here. We're starting to get there. So that's where we're at right now. We've got a fairly symmetrical point. Didn't take, you know, in the grand scheme of things, didn't really take that long. You know, it seems like it did because I'm talking and everything. Of course, we still haven't thinned out the base, so let's do that. It's basically the same process. Just keep nibbling away at the thickness until you're at a point where you can start to zigzag. Kind of had to take an aggressive bite out of that just because of where that crack spot is. It's, I mean, not the crack spot, but the part where the corner blew out. It's a little bit harder to abrade. I mean, I abraded it, but it's not as grippy as the rest of it. But it will be now. So again, I'm just taking bites out of that. Get it down to the thinness that I want it. It's almost there. There we go. Now I think what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to make that other corner match. That's, in my experience, that's the easiest way. I mean, you could flatten it out, you could try and make the notches match, you could do a million different things, but I'm just going to bring it back to symmetry so that, you know, whatever I do decide to do when I notch this, I don't have to worry about doing something different on one side than I did on the other. Again, I'm zigzagging on this base just to get rid of that cut edge. I mean, you could continue to pressure flake this all the way down until you don't have to zigzag. It just becomes a sharp edge. And a lot of people do that, and it's probably the more correct way to do it. But this is a little bit quicker. Some grinding. In fact, I'm just going to grind the whole edges so I don't cut myself on this. Yeah, this is going to be a nice little point, actually. I'm happy with this. At this point, it doesn't matter what side you've done last or not. Just look for the low spot. If you want to make a flake travel, hit it there. I'm having a hard time matching this up, but it'll work. Sometimes you gotta flip it back and forth. Like I took that other side just a little too far. So now I gotta flip over to the side that I was trying to correct for. Touch it up, just fix it a little bit. I'm just chipping away at this point. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to call it quits for now. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but you'll see that, it's pretty close. This camera angle is weird, I apologize. I usually have the camera a little lower. Shots are a little off, but I'll be able to notch that and make a nice little point out of that. It's more symmetrical than it looks like in the camera. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll make a video on notching another time. But if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. If you have any advice, post them. This is roughed out. I still need to go over there, obviously, and finish this up. Just taking off the unevenness of it. Maybe put another edge on it. But basically, that's how you skin a slab. I'll have another video on how to sharpen them and how to really fine-tune them from there. But I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe. Please like my videos. Please comment if you have any questions. And I hope to see you in the next video. Paleo Greenbird signing out.